So the first one I did a little differently because it was the first house that I did where it was on a train track like structure. It was also a little different because instead of painting the background first and then painting the stilts over top of it, I painted the background in between the stilt lines. So like all the background I actually painted after. I painted the foreground, which was a little different, a little much more difficult, but I think it turned out a little better because you get a contrast between light and dark that's different than the other ones. The point of view in the picture is a little different because you're looking at the house from below. So I felt that was pretty interesting because you're looking up at this house as opposed to being eye level at it. Let's see, that one, I used a bit of pink in that picture. I was experimenting with like different types of days. So this one I was trying to go for more of a dawn feeling. I think that the pink, for me, it didn't work as well as the other ones because I was really going for a sort of like bleak landscape, and the pink made it look a little bit too optimistic, but also it's a contrast from the other pictures, so I wasn't unhappy with it because this was one of my first pictures, so it turned out a little bit differently than what I had envisioned. For the structure for that, I actually Googled crazy structures online, and this was an actual like grain elevator for the structure. I just switched the house on top from the grain elevator, but it's still like this structure actually exists, which made me feel like, whoa, that's so crazy. Okay, the third image was the last one that I actually painted. So I started out just with the house on the train tracks. I didn't have the stilts around it in the original picture, but I felt that the stilts by the end of it were going to overtake the house, like completely go around the house and sort of take over, and I really like that as sort of like my ending project. This one is actually my favorite out of all of them. It's like this crazy spider web of stilts, and like this shadow, like the outside is lighter than the shadows of the stilts, so it makes the picture a little bit more darker. Yeah, I really enjoyed having the house sort of come straight at you. It's as if, like, bam, there's a house there. When there's, like, it opens up a whole bunch of questions, like what happens when the train comes by? The house isn't going to move, so, yeah. For the colors of the house, like the entire color, I really, like that was the look I was going for by the end of it. I managed to use a lot of browns and like sort of bleak colors that you see in like early spring, because if you look around at like rural Canada now, you see like all the grass is dead. It's just brown and sort of bleak looking, and I really enjoyed that because it reminded me of home. Not that home is a bad thing, just that's what I think of when I think of home, so it's kind of become a good thing. Alright, this one I also used pink. It was sort of my second experiment. I didn't have a strong horizon line in this one because I wanted to sort of blur it, make it look a little bit foggy. I also used the sort of train track type structure for this one, where it goes beyond the house, like the house is just sitting on this structure, but like it's not as if the structure was built for the house. This one was an interesting experiment because like it was the first one that I did without a strong horizon line, like a division between sky and ground, and it sort of blurred things for me. Also, my teachers encouraged me to go with a larger picture, but a small, like the same size house, so that it emphasizes space more. so that like you really get a feeling of the emptiness of the landscape, and then all your focus is on the house because it's like this so detailed. I haven't really considered that, so it probably would add a whole nother dialogue to it, because the houses are supposed to be alone in this work. But if I did one where like you have a bunch of houses, but they all seem like they're alone in the same frame, but they're really not, then that'll open up a whole new set of questions. Like, is this sort of like a new type of city? Does everybody do this like nowadays? Is this gonna be the new fad, I guess? That'll sort of open up dialogues of like culture, I guess, like larger than just one isolated house. In some of my works, I have a telephone line running through them, which sort of connects the house to the outside world, but not in a way that it's actually accessible. So like, you know that there's an outside world out there, but you can't really, you're separate from it. You can't really access it. I decided to work with crazy structures that could be possible, but you're also thinking, will the house fall down? So that adds another tension to the house, like, is it unstable? Like, it's a question between stability and fragility of like whatever you want to interpret into it. Like the house, like it's just sort of like perched on top of this unstable structure, so it makes you feel like it's going to fall down, but then at the same time you think, hey, maybe that could work. Yeah, I sort of used a similar color scheme. Like this one was where I sort of developed my color scheme for the last image that I did, where the house is on the train track and the stilts are all around it. So this one is another large painting that I did. It also plays with the physics of the building. Like, is it going to fall down or can it actually stay up? It also, like I also did this one larger, like the paper is larger but the house is smaller. So it's like, it like emphasizes the empty space more. This one, however, I did have the telephone line in the background so that you get a sense of other people and other, like an outside world, but you're not really accessible to it. And I did the shadow for this one a little bit strange. I just decided that, hey, I'm going to have this shadow where there's no real defined light source. So that sort of makes it a little bit eerie to me, because you would assume that the light source is coming from straight behind it, but there's no real indication because it's like an overcast, like cloudy day. Well, I wanted to make it seem as though it could, like I didn't want to make it seem as though it's totally impossible. I wanted people to look at it and say, that's impossible, but then look at it closer and say, hey, maybe that could work. Because in some of the houses, like, that have a strange structure where the house is half off the structure, I put like an indication that there's like a foundation below it, so you think maybe like, hey, this could work because like maybe the stilts are going like down deeper into the ground in order to support this house.